John Ripetoe was a young football player at the University of Tennessee in the late 60s. John was a roommate to Lester McLean, the first African-American football player at UT. Uncle Rail and Aunt Wilma got to know John because he dated and subsequently married my first cousin, Doris, who was also from Johnson City. And they remain married today after over 50 years. But UT was going to a bowl game, and they were on campus, and Rail sent word to John to come down and eat Thanksgiving dinner with us and bring Lester, bring your roommate. Well, they came down, and back then the hotel dining room was open, and it was one of the white tablecloth places that you'll see. Very fancy, finger bowls, silver trays. It was really a nice place to eat. And they brought the meal out, and they had pheasant under glass. And Lester would laugh about this. It was told, I told this at my aunt's funeral. They bring the pheasant under glass out, they open it up, and Lester leans over and whispers to John Ripetoe, "John, that's the scrawniest turkey I've ever seen in my life." Rail began this operation here as Maples Manor in 1937. When the park was announced in the early 30s, tremendous land speculation, there was a lot of construction. A lot of people could see that this area, this town was going to prosper. Rail was one of them. He built the inn. It originally had 12 rooms. It, at one point in time, a few years later, had as many as 100. In the early 60s, they consolidated several of the rooms on the third floor in particular, and it now has 70 rooms. But Rail Maples saw the era of prosperity coming, and he and the other leaders of the town, such as Andy Huff and Steve Whaley and the Reagans, they did something in Gatlinburg that's hardly ever done. There's a lot of long-term leases, 99 years on down in Gatlinburg. The old families, Ogles, Maples, Whaleys, Reagans, they still own most of the property in Gatlinburg because these people had the foresight that they would not sell the land to outside speculators and developers, but would keep it themselves. Now, a real good thing to read, and I'm sorry, to the best of our knowledge, he never stayed at the inn, but he stayed right down the street at the Riverside, was the great writer Ernie Pyle. Ernie Pyle is best known as the World War II correspondent who was killed in 1945 during the war. An immensely popular writer. He was from Indiana, but before he wrote about the war in 1939 and 1940, Ernie Pyle came to Gatlinburg and wrote about the town, and wrote about the families, and wrote about the characters. He mentioned Uncle Rail and Mr. Whaley and all. And if you can find one of his little books somewhere, and you might find something online, it's very interesting reading. But Ernie Pyle wrote a snapshot of Gatlinburg in 1939.